The last couple weeks, we've been talking about the table. Come to the table. And the movements of communion and what it means. That Jesus took bread, broke it, blessed it, and gave it. We've talked about giving thanks. We've talked about gathering at the table. And today we are talking about the bread of life and being fed. It seems a simple idea, right? That we come to the table and we receive what God gives us, which is everything. I think that's probably the primary way that most of us think about communion, right? That it's for us to come and be fed. And it is. But I think there's a hidden barrier for some of us to truly being fed. To be fed, we must first be hungry. If we do not feel our hunger, well, then the bread is just a nice snack, a little morsel of hope, a little morsel of grace. And don't get me wrong, all times that we take communion are filled with the mystery of God more than we can imagine. But if we come to the table deeply aware of our need, how much sweeter that bread and that juice are. How much more of a difference does it make when we receive God's love and grace and feel it? We can really feel it when we know that we're hungry. Now, we know about physical hunger, right? Anybody else get hangry sometimes? I can tell you about the kids. I do too. I have some weird blood sugar stuff, and if I get low blood sugar, it starts to feel like I'm literally going to die. Like I get sweaty, dizzy, lightheaded. I hope that happens never to any of you, but sometimes we know our physical hunger, but what about the rest of our hunger? The emotional side, our mental side, our spiritual side, the hungers of our heart. To say that we are hungry means that we are in need. Are you tracking with me, right? And is it sometimes hard to say we need something? We need help. We need friendship. We need a break from stress. We need help with our friends at school or the teacher who's getting on to us all the time, the coworker who's bugging us. We need help. Is that ever hard for you to admit? In our culture, we put a lot of emphasis on being strong and efficient and achieving and being fast and getting things done. We don't really look kindly on those who are vulnerable, who are weak, who are needy, the poor, the sick, children, the hungry. We kind of sometimes want to distance ourselves from those who are weak. We say to ourselves, I've got it all together. And people who ask you how you're doing, you'll say, what do we say? I'm fine, right? Okay, now we won't get into, there's an acronym for fine, but it's not church appropriate. Shouldn't have even mentioned it, but I just did. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, we say that we're fine. We sort of cover over the troubles that we have when we have them. Even if we're not having troubles, don't we find ourselves hungry, just wanting deep connection? Like, have you ever had sort of small talk with someone and you were just so bored you thought, why are we talking about the weather again? Can't we talk about something real? Or maybe you didn't think that. Maybe you like talking about the weather and you're like, shoo, I didn't have to get into any of the details of my life. I didn't have to connect with this person. But we are, aren't we? Church is supposed to be a place for the broken, the wounded, the weary. And so this is the place and the time to admit, I am a needy person. I am a sinner. I am broken. I hunger for God, for community, for grace. I am weak, but God feeds us with all that we need. It's a very small idea I offer to you this week, just to get in touch with your hunger, to go to God hungry, not all put together, not with everything figured out, but hungry. Feel your hunger. What is it you're hungry for? Think about it for a second. This week, take that hunger to God. Know that God does provide. Jesus said, I am the bread of life. And those crowds who were there following him, they were changed and amazed by the food that he gave them, but it also stirred in them their whole life hunger for something more. That something more, that something bigger than us is God, is love, and is present to us at all times. Feel your hunger. Take it to God. Be fed. Amen.